Call me old man Wade.
Damn you, old man!
Wait.
Old ass man.
Shut up, old man. You smell like fart.
No!
Old man.
He's so old, he got a podcast on cassette.
Fuck, you're old.
Damn it, Wade.
So yeah, the idea of people just being considerate seems to be a lost art with people. I can't quite understand it, but you know, what do I know? I'm just an old fool.
That's okay. It's better to be a fool, right? Sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Especially considering a lot of the times it seems that it's the best thing to do as opposed to just coming off like a jerk. So
I think there was a book that was mentioned by, I don't know what show I was listening to. The guy was talking about how to suck at your job and not get fired is what it was called. Basically, how to do a good job at work without getting more work dumped on you is basically what the idea was.
what is it my wife always says? When you do your job so well, you get the privilege and honor of doing someone else's.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about right now in my current situation.
Yeah, that's I've noticed, and that's been a whole thing. And you know, what's funny is like I had to learn that the hard way recently. Like I love my job. I'm not gonna say where I work on air, but I love my job. I love what I do. And for the first time, I've been at this job coming up 2 years now. For the first time since I started my first job, my first real job was when I moved out of my house. I feel like I actually make a difference somewhere. You know what I mean?
That's good.
But
that's what you're looking for.
yeah, but then it's like the people I work with. I'm like, I just want to like pluck them on the nose. Nothing violent, just like a pluck on the nose or a slap on the hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see some of your tweets talking about things on there, so I feel for you. I feel that way some days after some of my meetings.
Yeah.
I get very frustrated. Like the people that I work for, like directly and in person with, and everybody that I'm around is fine. It's just as you move up in the chain of command, they have different opinions of what's important to them. And I understand that, you know, we all have the different roles we have to do, but sometimes it's not so nice the way people are treated.
Yeah, it's funny because and that's the one thing I always try to remember, that like I always make the comment like above my pay grade because I really don't know what's going on. Because like it could be, from my perspective, it looks like they're doing nothing, but realistically they could be, you know, holding everything down. Like, you know, it may take them a couple hours to do it, but it's an important couple of hours.
That's how I feel too, though. Man, when I'm at work, sometimes I feel like I've done nothing. Some days, and some days I have because they don't give me anything.
Oh yeah.
I'm just there if something breaks. But you know, in IT, that's what happens. Sometimes that's all I get to do. There are times I remember I told somebody one time. I said I spent because what I was working on was considered the highest priority thing we could do.
Yeah.
Because it affected a very important customer of ours. I spent, I think, 6 to 8 months doing absolutely nothing because they wouldn't let me work on anything else. But I couldn't get it done because that customer would not tell me whether or not what I did was acceptable for them. So every day I would come in, I would ask, could I do something else? They say, no, that's high priority. I was like, but I can't do anything because there's nothing for me to do. And they're like, nope, you have to get this done. I'm like, I can't get it done until they respond. Well, you have to get it done. So 6 to 8 months of doing nothing.
But let me get started. Welcome to the Old Man Wade Show. I am your host, the God of Stubborn, the Lord of Laughter, Old Man Wade, and that may be one of the longest introductions we've done. And let me just say, for the record, I can't stand the internet. It's a terrible, terrible place sometimes. But sometimes, every so often, you come across somebody on the internet who's a genuinely good person. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's awesome. This is one of those people. Tell everyone who you are.
Oh, gosh. Should I do that? Is that incriminating? Can I not say that? No, I go by Sensationo online. That's my preferred method of being called. Any name would work. If you want to be mean to me and call me something else and just give me a terrible nickname, I'm fine with that. I'll roll with it. It doesn't bother me at all. But I am just a fool that happened to meet Old Man Wade online through our friend Lavelle, who does a lot of pro wrestling talk, and that's kind of how it all started for me, how I ended up meeting you.
Exactly. It was funny because I kind of check in and out of wrestling, but I randomly saw you like tweeting Lavelle and stuff like that, and I'm just like, oh, this is kind of funny. And it wasn't like, and it was one of the first times you see someone talking about wrestling and they're not attacking, and I'm just like, oh, this seems nice. and then that started, and the comic book chat started, and you started talking about anime, and you did. Oh, and this is for the people who may remember this. This is the guy who did the hatred, the hatred voice.
I almost did that to start, but then I was like, nah. It's about to be like just Sergeant Hatred took over the call for a minute, and I was going to have to wrestle him off and get rid of him, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I could finish it without just busting out laughing.
Like, damn it, Hatred, get out of here!
It pretty much was. I did it for my wife as a joke, and she was laughing, but I'm lucky that she enjoys my goofiness.
Oh my god, isn't it great when your wife actually enjoys your, like, shenanigans?
Oh, I tell her every night, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I have you, because it's just so good to have somebody who actually loves me and cares about me. So.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic, man. I always tell my wife that I married up. But it's funny. Like, some people complain about marriage, and when I say complain about it, I'm not talking to regular, like, every day, like, you know, things happen and stuff like that. It's like, I like being married, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it could just be because I married, like, the right person for me. And, like, we had a tough couple years with COVID and stuff going on with my wife at school and, like, just other shenanigans that were going on, but we've managed to get through it, and I can honestly say that, like, if you've made it through the last couple of years, then you're doing something right. And I have to admire. I admire the people who came out. I think I've said this on every podcast I've done the last year, actually last few months. I'll say that if you came out of this without learning something, or without, like, you know, some new view on life, like, you missed the perfect opportunity to do it. I've come out of this stuff looking like, even if it was just something as simple as, like, a new friend or a new hobby or just a new skill, like, this was the time to do it. And especially if you just maintained a relationship, as difficult as it was when you can't leave your house and, like, you can't go on dates anymore. Like, if you could survive this, then kudos to you.
Yeah, that was definitely the hard part for us. We started our daughter. They did have the schools open whenever she started kindergarten.
Yeah.
But we decided to have her stay home for the first semester, and that was really hard for my wife, because my daughter sees my wife as mom, not as a teacher. Oh. So when you sit down and my wife is trying to walk her through something, and my wife is a former educator, so she knows what she's doing. But my daughter doesn't see her that way, and she's just like, "Mom, quit yelling, quit telling me what to do, Mom. You don't know me, Mom." It's like, and my wife would come out of there every day just frustrated. And I was lucky enough that my work let me split time between working and taking care of my son, because at that time he was early too, and just didn't, he didn't understand. He's just like, "Hey man, it's fun time. Dad's home. I'm working from home," and he's just like, Dad, let's do this. Dad, come on." He still does that. I've got the door locked now, and I'm waiting for the banging on the door to yell at me and be like, "Dad." And he'll slide his hand under the door and be like, "Give me 5.
Man, listen, if your son wants to come on and talk, and you want to hand him 5, be my guest.
Oh, I'm pretty sure that you'll hear them through the door. I was playing games with my buddy the other day, and I had the door shut and stuff, so I wasn't making a lot of noise outside of the room, because I get really loud when gaming, but mostly just goofing off.
Yeah.
But, like, I could hear my son complaining about something to my wife. He was just yelling about something. I think, like, a toy was missing, and he just had a meltdown. But I could hear it on my buddy's mic, so I had no clue that my mic was picking up that good. But he didn't have his headphones on, and I could hear from his speakers my son yelling, echoing back to me. I was like, "Ooh." I opened the door. I'm like, "Luco, can you be quiet?" I shut the door.
So it's funny. So me and my wife decided, date number 1, that we weren't gonna have, like, she was like, "Before we get started, in a relationship, do you want kids?" I said, "Absolutely not." She goes, "Good, no, me neither." And it's funny whenever someone goes like, "You don't want kids?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I'm okay." But I hear everyone else and, like, the joy they have for kids, and it makes me happy. So that's great. But on the topic of loudness, so I am Lavelle used to say my voice carries, which was a nice way of saying I'm loud. And so my wife's voice carries. And there's been times where I've been recording in another room with the door closed. And I'll go back and listen to it. And I'll go, I can hear your entire dang conversation. And she goes, you could? I'm like, yeah. But it's kind of funny, though. And speaking of her, it's funny. I stopped recording for a while, and it wasn't fun with me, and I realized a lot of it had to do with, like, I wasn't recording with my wife. It's just not as fun recording without someone else. And I'll do a solo one here and there, but it's something about recording with something else, which made me happy, because when we ironed out some time to do this, and I was like, oh, we're supposed to, and I remember you said your wife was like, oh, I thought you were supposed to be recording with them. And I was like, you know what, you're right. And so timing was perfect. And I was like, you know what, we could do this. And even better, because I know with your schedule, earlier in the day on a Saturday works. And so when I'm done with this, I am going to save it, and I'm going in the room, and I'm going to bed to get ready for tonight's work.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you doing this, and that's tough. I know doing all the things that you have to do besides just doing writing, podcasting, and doing other things that you do, man. That is. I'll tell you what, you do a lot.
You know, I have this thing. Me and one of my best friends, Panda, we do. And every Monday through Friday, we do this thing called a 5 and 1, and it's 5 things you like and 1 thing you love about yourself. And it's funny because I was talking today, and I was just like, she was like, you know, what are you up to today? I said, recording, dishes, meal prep, sleep, then work. And a lot of it's stuff people will be like, oh, that just sounds like a really like annoying day after you're working. And it is, but it's like, I get to do these things. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I want to do dishes? No. But I made a playlist, and I zoned out the Pharaoh Munch, and then I put a Seth Rollins' theme on repeat.
Oh, man, that's like me, man. I just put the what you say run from My Hero Academia, and that's just what I listen to pump myself up to get through chores.
Oh yeah.
Make me feel like an anime star in there. Ha look at me. Come along, young Midoriya. It's time to clean the floors. All right, sir, we'll get it taken care of.
I wish the people could see me, but I'm like, Seth Rollins' music is the da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I'm sitting there like waving my fingers like I'm conducting an orchestra while I'm waiting for like the turkey meat to cook.
Well, just don't burn it down, okay? That's
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
thing that is, don't burn down the turkey with anything.
No. It's
You
just
mentioned skills, by the way. You were saying if you didn't come out with a new skill or something like that, and that was one of the things that was funny we talked about before. But I've been practicing piano, and before this call, I was actually messing around with my piano to see if Skype could pick it up correctly. And I was like, oh, it can. And you know what sounds bad about that is the keys are kind of heavy, and you hear clunk, clunk, clunk.
yeah.
Like, well, sounds like I'm playing drums instead.
Which is funny, you play the drums, and it was because I remember, which actually kind of leads into a topic I want to talk about. You play the drums, not only do you play the drums, you play the drums for your church.
Well, yeah.
And so, there's a lot that goes into just this statement in general. So, it's you, your wife, and your 2 kids go to church. So, it's just the idea of getting up, getting everybody ready for church, then getting to church, and then playing the drums for church, and then being present in church, and not even just for your family, but your church family. And that just seems like an exhausting day. Like, how do you get yourself like mentally and like, well, physically, like, you know, you kind of deal. Don't know why I can't speak right now, but it becomes almost a muscle memory with certain things, like when you've done something X amount of time. But how do you get yourself mentally prepared for all that?
Well, it's a lot easier now that I go to a church that's much closer. Because used to, we would drive 30 minutes away to like the next largest, or like Bloomington, basically where Indiana University is. We would drive up there and go to church. Because that's where we started when me and my wife were in college.
Yeah.
And we were involved in music and stuff then. And it wasn't too bad whenever you don't have kids. Because like, oh, okay, well, I can just get myself up and go. It's not a problem. Boom, there, you know. It was still tough to be awake in the mornings for like the early part, but you know, music will hit and I'm ready to go. But you know, now that we're closer and we decided to do that so we could actually be more involved, it's not as bad. But man, getting 2 kids up and ready, and they do 2 services, so they do one at 8 and then one at 11. And so if you do music, you have to be there for both services to do that. So usually what happens is those days, if my wife is doing music, because like we alternate sometimes, and she'll sing and I'll do drums, one of us has to get ourselves and the kids ready and everything and all there in time for second service. But luckily, that's like 11 a.m., so that's not too bad. But days when I perform at 8, I try to sleep as long as I can. So like I set an alarm. I got like 5 alarms set to remind me all the times to get up. Always just different anime music to get me pumped up, so that way I can get going, because I'm an anime file person.
Anime file.
I didn't want to use the other terms because people might say those are offensive, and I don't want to.
Yeah,
so
I
gotta
dig.
be careful what you say.
I absolutely, trust me, I dig it.
But I listen to just a lot of different music, hard rock and stuff to get me pumped up, get my blood flowing, get me thinking about playing drums and doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then to basically get dressed, run some water through my hair, and just shake it out, because I'm lucky enough that my hair just does what it wants to do, and I can't control it, and I just don't care. So like, if it looks bad, whatever, too bad. That's everybody else's problem. I can't see it.
Yeah, and you're going to church, like, it's not a fashion show. That's you like.
And some places are. That's what's crazy about some churches that I've been to, where they're like, you better show up fully dressed, you better have tux on, you better have a tie, and all these things. I'm like, I'm not going to that. I chose a place that let me dress how I want to dress, so it's jeans and a nice polo shirt or something like that. Because playing drums in slacks is not exactly the easiest thing to do. And if you're a bigger guy like I am, 6'3", 280, that's kind of hard to do stuff.
You know what's funny? And again, this is, from a profile picture, I never would have guessed 6'3".
Well, the profile picture that's on here on Scott's Mr. Satan, so what are you going to do?
He's a big man, I beat up Sale, no problem. Y'all come down here. Join me at church. I'll play drums with you. I'll watch shows and tricks anyway. See the light behind old man Wade there flashing around. He's over there trying to fire a Kamehameha or something. What do you think, Boo?
I don't know, Hercule. I think I need to sleep.
All right, Boo, go back to sleep. Hercule, are you in there talking to Boo? Yes, yeah, I am. What's he doing? He's sleeping. Sounds like him. What a fat lord. Anyway,
Yeah, this is.
This is the stuff that I do just to kill time, and I love getting to do this stuff. It just makes me happy. I do voice acting when I'm out mowing the yard, so nobody can hear how bad prep work is. Which is funny. That's just a complete shift from church where we were at, talking about getting ready. And this is the joy of talking with me. And if you do anything like this, I'm on tangents all the time. I have trouble doing that, so like you may have to rein me in some. So
I mean, you've heard the show, so.
I have. I
So
feel bad because I don't listen as much as I should.
look, I accept it. I've gotten over the
You guys
fact.
should put me on the pod before with the Sergeant Hatred thing. I didn't even listen to that. I was too nervous that it would sound bad that I just didn't do it. I was like, no, I can't do that, because it was the same thing with music at church. We record all of our services, and we have the worship part. And I was so worried to listen to that, because I thought, I'm going to sound like some fool up there who doesn't know what he's doing. And I listened to it, and I was like, oh, thank you, Lord, that I actually don't sound like a complete idiot up here. It sounds okay.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't listen back to the show unless I absolutely have to, unless I'm like taking notes and stuff like that. And I go, okay, I gotta go back and check this, and I gotta go back and check that out, but I don't know. So anyway, and the reason I want to talk to you about churches, and we had you said it briefly about the idea of like going to a like church where it's like it's essentially a fashion show. And I used to be heavy in church. Like, I mean, like I sang in the choir. I did all the things, and I was really good at it. I had a very, very bad experience with the church I was in, and who just happened to be the pastor of church just happened to be my uncle, and I just didn't like the way some things went down, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done. Couple that with some of the unfortunate things that happen in random churches and the things that you see, I kind of checked out. But I didn't check out on, I guess, God itself. But I've said to Javi, my co-host and one of my best friends, I'm agnostic as F. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what I believe in. I do believe that there's something going on. I do believe that there is somebody up there. And my wife has got me to the point where she's just like, she's reminding me that, like, just because some people are a certain way in church, that, like, you can't knock everybody. And you're one of the people that I always look at and go, okay, well, this person's not, like, just, you're not horrible. Like, you seem to be very considerate. Like, we've had conversations about, I remember, actually, it was a year ago, we had a conversation about, like, you know, how do you talk to someone who doesn't understand what Black Lives Matter is.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation, and I think that was a real turning point for me, because it reminded me that, like, you know, the internet is a place where you can actually meet some really cool people, and that, so that was dope. And then finding out maybe a few months later that, you know, you were, like, you're Christian or as a Catholic. I don't want to, like, misrepresent what you are.
Nah, Christian's what it falls under. I do non-denominational because I don't understand what the denominations are. I'm like, we all just believe in God and Jesus.
Yeah.
And they have all these different rules. I'm like, well, I'm not going to follow those. You all can do that. I'll stick with what's important.
Yeah, being a good person. And so, in, like, hearing you talk about, like, you know, like, your faith in God and stuff like that, and you've never pushed it on me, I was like, oh, that's one of the things that I could never stand. And one of the things that when I got baptized, my uncle was just like, never push your religion on somebody else. Like, if they don't want to listen, then, you know, you just, you know, take a step back and move on. And, like, I thought that was kind of cool. And in listening to you, so with all that rambling I just did, how do you maintain your faith in, like it's such, like, a, I don't want to say terrible time. It's such a, I guess, it's such a difficult time in, like, the world when, like, there's just so much going on, and it almost seems like there's no hope. How do you keep your hope, and how do you keep your faith as strong as you do?
Oh man, bringing out the tough questions here. How does I do that? I just blank. Nah. A lot of the time, it's trying to remember to try to find the good things, like you said. Try to find positives and stuff, if possible. I know that there's a lot of negative things that go on and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean that that's all that's going on. I think a lot of times we get presented so much of, what would you say, just negativity. You know, we talked about the different things you see online. You said, you know, it seems like that's all you find online is just people being negative about everything and not very many people being positive. But trying to realize that there are good things that happen. And, you know, bad stuff does happen. We can't stop. We try our best to stop people from doing bad stuff. You know, like, if somebody's doing something wrong, you want to try to prevent them from doing that. But, you know, how do I keep the hope up is that, you know, I spend a lot of time in prayer just talking to God, asking Him to help me through it and to change my thinking about things and to actually stop myself and just actually try to think about stuff a little bit. But it is hard. A lot of times I have to just step away from online and stuff like that and news, or cut out the things that are causing the problem to remove my thought of hope. You know, like, I was reading an article a while back. It was in Tennessee, which isn't too far from me, and they were just putting kids in juvenile detention center. They were just taking kids out of school and doing that. The kids witnessed a fight, and they said, well, you didn't stop the fight, so you're in just as much trouble as the people that caused the fight. And there was just a lot of horrible things going on there, and I was so angry at that time when I heard that I wanted to go down there and do something about it. Like, either, you know, I didn't know what to do, and it turned into anger, and I had to stop that, because I was like, that wouldn't be good. To go down there is, like, just full of rage, full of anger, and then do something. It's like, that's going to not help at all. It's just going to make the situation worse. It's going to make things a lot worse for me and my family.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the one thing that helps if you're a Christian or you're somebody who's of that faith is you always have hope that in the end, you know, I still win. That's what a lot of people say. Like, you get to heaven, you get things like that. But I still have to think, how can I help things now? And how can I help make things better? You know, how can we improve things? You know, we've talked about all the horrible stuff going on. It's like, okay, well, what could we do to fix that? What are the small steps we can take to get there, to actually see the start of a change? You mentioned when we talked about the Black Lives Matter thing. It's like, well, what can we do to start things on that path? And realizing that, we may not change it in our lifetime on something like that, get it completely fixed. Let's put it that way. But we can start making the changes so that way it'll keep rolling and get the ball moving, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that ties into what you asked about how I keep my faith or hope and stuff.
It absolutely does, and it's funny you say, and I think that everything you said is 100% correct. But I also want to add to that, and having a conversation with my therapist about feeling guilty for not marching and protesting. You know what I mean? And he mentioned to me that some people just can't do that. Like, you know what I mean? He goes, like, I have a platform. I use my platform to do it. I may only reach a couple of people, but those couple of people listen. I've had people online who said, like, hey, what does this mean? How can I go about doing that? And then I do it. Like, when I have LGBTQ friends, and it's like, I don't want to come off sounding like a jerk. So I have to come to them and say, hey, I just wrote this. Is this offensive? Or Vita Ayala for example, is a writer that I absolutely love. And they're non-binary. So when I was writing a piece on them, I said, hey, I don't want to misrepresent you. This is what I wrote. Is this okay? And they said, just take the she out because I'm they, them. And so it's okay. So I'm learning. I have a non-binary co-worker who it's helping me with stuff. So, and it's just these little things, even if it's just one person, that's one more person who can then lead to another person, which is what you talked about. It's like it may not change in our lifetime, but it's definitely something that can change other people's lives. And I think that's the most important thing. And
well, and what you spoke of too is like in the end, we can only really change ourselves. I mean, no matter how, like as a parent, I realize that because I try to teach my kids different things, but I can't guarantee that they are going to, do the things that I hope that they do. And coming to terms with that's always been a hard thing because I always sit there some days and I'm like, oh man, hope I'm doing it right to teach these kids. But then again, I'm like, they're also going to make their own decisions like I did.
yeah, they're gonna make.
I didn't choose to go to church for a long time until I got to college, and then I just happened to be with my wife one day at church, and I was like, this is something that I've got to do. I just felt touched that I needed to be involved with that, and it was a slow process. I still don't get everything right. I'm a human. I make mistakes. That's why, like, whenever I post stuff or I tell people things, I always try to say, this is just my opinion, and I can be completely wrong, and I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something you run into online too. People talking about stuff. I was like, I'm always careful about just talking about my faith or anything because I don't feel like getting attacked over something. I was like, well, if I can just live my life as being a good person, try to help people out. If there's a need, try to meet it if I can. Try to pray for people. I know that some people may say, well, that doesn't work, but I've seen it work. So it's worked in my life. I mean, if it doesn't in others, I mean, I'm sorry. It's like I went outside one day and I prayed when I was mowing that it wouldn't rain, and the rain all moved. Like
I remember you talking about that.
I watched the clouds move away from me, and it rained on the town next to me, and they were all like, well, we were trying to mow too. Why'd you do that? I'm sorry. I was concerned about making sure that my mom didn't come home from vacation and have to mow her entire yard plus this extra portion. So there's like a lot of yard around it. I can send you a map and show you where I'm at so you can see how much that is. It's a lot. But I was just like, Lord, just help me get through this so that way she doesn't have to deal with that when she gets back. It's the same as they were doing a car show where I lived up, the small town where I live. They were doing a car show for charity. They were going to give the money out to help people out. But, you can't really have a car show out when a thunderstorm. And I saw the clouds moving, and I was just like, Lord, if you can move this around so we can get this charity done, and then as soon as it's done, if you can do whatever you want. And I looked up and I watched as the clouds just kind of moved around the town. So, it's kind of hard for me to see things like that and not be like, well, something's going on here.
Yeah. But it's, it's funny. Christopher, and I've said this on the podcast a million times, Christopher Titus has a joke where he goes, believe in what you want to believe in. If it stops you from robbing me at the bank at 3 a.m, then that's fine by me. I don't, like you said, faith, as it goes, faith is believing in something that you can't explain. And that's part of having, having faith in something in general. And it's kind of cool when you see like miracles happen and like you know what I mean, or just someone who has overcome, like that's a miracle. That's like having faith in yourself, and it's just like things like that. And I think that's dope. I actually remember that picture you showed, and like I'm not sure if it was on Twitter or Instagram, but I remember seeing the picture, and I think I said to you, I was like, I'm not a very religious person, but what you said was dope. I loved it because I'm all for anybody who just really can just like positivity is just I think the way to go, and if religion keeps people positive, then I am, and then I will go for it 100%. Like if someone says, like you said Thanksgiving, hey, is there anything that you want me to pray for? If like what do I have to lose with someone putting positivity in the air? And like and for me to be like, oh, I don't believe in God, don't play for me. It's like that's nasty. Just just accept that someone wants to do something nice for you, and just kind of just move on. And I was touched, and I was like, you know what? Like I was like, my wife could use this right now, or like our family could use this right now. So like, and I thought I appreciated it. You know what I mean? And I know some people like, well, like there is no God. I'm like that's fine. You can believe that, but like for me to tell someone else that, like you know what I mean. And I used to be a jerk with stuff like that. I used to be really bad. Like and you're God this and you're just like, but it's as we get older and as we mature and as you said, the only thing you can really be
The only thing you can change is yourself.
yes. Thank you for getting that because I was tongue
No
tied.
problem, man.
But the only thing you can change is yourself, and that's 100% true. And like I can try to be the best person in the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean that my example is going to lead to someone else. Like the stuff at my job, like I didn't want to do this particular patrol of the hospital, but I was like, I have to do it because it's part of my job. And even something as simple as that, and going down and seeing one of the particular floors, like, hey, I'm just checking in. Y'all good? Yeah, we're good. Oh, and then just the genuine appreciation of seeing someone because they don't normally see somebody. They're like, oh, thank you for doing that. Yeah. That could turn their crappy day into something amazing.
Yeah, that's talking about doing something like that too. Just thanking people in general for what they do. Like if somebody's in the service industry, like I was going through the McDonald's drive-thru, I always try to thank the people that are there. Because I know for the most part, all they hear is the anger, people being mad. Well, it's slow, there's problems, there's this, blah, blah, that.
Yeah.
I just try to think, I'm like, you know what, I appreciate what you're doing. I know it's not fun. I know it's tough to do because I've worked in the service industry before, and basically it's like, hey, guess what? You're a lightning rod of hate. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always try to do that. Or like, we don't think about it, but like the people, like janitorial staff. You know how important a janitor is to making sure a place is acceptable to be in? Because when the janitor's not there. You can guarantee that, but you won't know if they're there. I mean, might not see them. You'll know if they did a good job or if they did a bad job. But I always try to thank them for what they do because I've done bathroom cleaning at the 4-H county fair where I live. Yeah, it's bad. Me and my mom did that for a while when I was a teen. But, it's something that's needed. It's something that needs to be done. And, if you do a good job, then everybody will be happy. And if you do a bad job, everybody will let you know.
And it's funny, my dad was, I don't remember, I can never remember this between a janitor and a custodian, but my dad did one of them. I think he was a custodian in a school. And I remember, I vividly remember going to school with him on like during the summertime. And I'm like, what do you have to clean in the summertime? And he was just like, I got a lot of work to do before this school's opens up again. And like, and then I remember taking the garbage out with him on my days off and things like that. And it's so much so that the smell of a boiler room brings back nostalgia, you know what I mean? And then I worked, my first job was at a supermarket. And my grandmother worked at the supermarket, and one of the first things she said was, people are going to talk bad about you, people are going to say horrible things about me. She goes, do not react. And thankfully, I think I may have yelled at 3 people in my time working in customer service or just working with the public in general. And I'm not proud of any of them, even if I did have a couple of good zingers. But I've never actually, I pride myself on kind of just holding back. Like at my job now, I've been called the N-bomb more times this year than I've ever been called in my life. And it's just and everyone goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it doesn't faze me. You're going to have to be really creative to insult me. But that comes from years of customer service. And my old manager said something that if I was president, I swear to you, I would make this a law. He said, everybody in high school should have to work a summer in customer service just so they can see what it looks like from the opposite end. And, and I wonder how much of a difference that would make if people could actually see, like, you know, the kind of things that everyone else goes through, like just the, again, you've worked at a county fair and no one really appreciates the things like that, like the stuff that you must have seen at the county fair as a teenager, the things you must have smelled. Ooh, I'll tell you a story when we're off air. But
well, it's lucky enough that the olfactory, is that what it is for smell? I think that's the term for it. That
yes.
sense, eventually it just ignores things after a while. So,
yes.
you know, the first day may be bad, second day still pretty bad. Third day, your brain's kind of like, I'm just going to ignore this, and then you're okay by the end of it. That's like the people who work at the water sanitation factories. You know, like where they clean up. Yeah, you got to think about how bad that smells if you drive. Because there's one on the highway to where I work at. You drive by it every day and you can just smell the manure. It just stinks to high heaven. And you're like, how do those people do that? And I'm like, our brain just ignores stuff. Like, you're scratching your nose right now. People can't see this, but you scratch your nose. You don't even see your nose when you think about it. It's like, unless you actually like actively look, it's there all the time. But your brain's just like, forget it. I don't need this information.
Yeah, and again,
that helps. It's very helpful with a lot of things. Our brains being able to do that. It's cool.
Like the things I've smelled at my job, and again, I'll tell you some stuff off the air, but the things I've smelled at work, and it's just like, because smells don't really bother me, but I finally had a smell that I was like, oh. I was like, that was really bad, but the idea of just being a good person, and then, so, when, so if I'm at a restaurant, even if the waiter is crappy, I'll give them 15%. If they're just deplorable, I'll still give them 15%. We went to Fridays, Thursday for Thanksgiving. We gave the waiter 30%.
Thursdays on a Friday, what's the problem? Man, you're offending my dad's self here. What is this?
What?
Sunday on Saturday? What's going on with this man?
What is this? What are these shenanigans?
What's going on here?
So we went there, and I gave the dude 30% because it's like, not only was he a great waiter, but it's Thanksgiving. Like, you know what I mean? So it's not really stressing me any. But yeah, so it's just the little things like that, or just saying something as simple as saying thank you can change someone's day, or something. And this is one thing I always try to remember. And a coworker, I call the little sister of the people I work with. She's always coming asking questions, and she's like, "Oh, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." She goes, "Sorry to bother you." I'm like, "It's not that serious." And every time I say that, she laughs because she knows that, like, it doesn't really bug me that she's asking questions. I was like, "Yo, ask all the questions you want. You're never gonna bug me." And something like that, she appreciates, and it makes her job a little bit easier knowing that she can come to me and ask these questions. Or when someone will go to me, "Oh, hey," I'm like, "Oh, hey, can I have a Big Mac?" Which I'll never order. "Oh, we're out of the sauce for the Big Mac." "Oh, that's cool." Like, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna like yell at them for something that they can't control.
That made me think of going out to eat one time, and they had new items on their menu at Denny's, and their manager didn't plan for the amount of stuff that would be ordered, so they were out of supply of a lot of stuff, and so they had to come back and apologize to us, like, "I'm sorry, we don't have cranberries to put on this. We're out of pumpkin pie that's supposed to come with this meal. We're out of most of the items that go with this meal. Technically, we should have marked it off, and we were just like, that's okay. We don't mind. It's fine. We just appreciate you guys trying to do what you can to help us out."
Yeah. And people will go, "Well, they get paid for it." I'm like, yeah, they get paid for it, but they don't get paid to get yelled at.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, I don't know. Sometimes we have too heightened elevation of ourselves and thinking that we're so superior and deserve so much better than probably what we should. I mean, you deserve good. You deserve things to be positive. You deserve, like, if you're paying for something, you deserve a service to be rendered in with what you're paying for. But also,
within reason.
Like, some people some people act like this, stereotypical kings that appear in TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
"I declare that I wish to have this way and this way only. Feed me what I desire."
What do you mean there's no bacon here?
"How can you be out of bacon?"
How?
Winch, get the pig.
Cut the pig, cut his back and his belly, and make me some bacon. It was just...
Do it for me now. I'm the king of the ring, and I shall speak this way.
Thank you, Xavier Woods. So yeah, but
Oh wait, I can't do that anymore. So
that's
Okay, I went to Walmart the other day and they had like almost all the figures that they had were all currently released from the pro wrestling.
wow, really.
I took a photo. The funny thing is, I took a photo of that and I was like, wow. Well, at least you can see the released superstars at Walmart. And Walmart retweeted me like, hey, which one's your favorite? You realized what I was saying. Like, I guess Bray Wyatt because he comes with Huskus.
You know what's funny is I should really get I should get a Keith Lee figure. I should, and Lavelle's mad at me for putting this in the air, but I really think Shayna Baszler is the next one to go.
Yeah,
They
I
have
don't watch anymore, to be honest. I the only reason I even pay attention to things is because of the stuff that Lavelle says or the things that you tweet to him, and then I just respond to that stuff with like, randomness. Like I don't even watch it. I tried, and it's hard for me to get back into. And with them doing the Saudi Arabia stuff, I couldn't do it. I felt wrong for it's like not for the wrestlers and the people that do that work and the guys who do the in-ring stuff, the cameramen and things like that. They don't have control over what the company does.
Yeah.
In the end, the company can decide what it wants to do and what it's going to do. I can't support that, but if I had a way I could help out the wrestlers or like retweet them or comment on things that they did to specifically get information out about them, that's fine. But when it comes to WWE, I'm like, you guys don't exist.
It's funny because like if he didn't watch wrestling, I probably wouldn't either. It's honestly just another excuse for me and him to get together and drink and eat and just have a good time. Like honestly,
That's good.
it's there are certain wrestlers and characters that I'm just like that I just absolutely love. Like the new Roman Reigns, I find I'm enamored with how good he is, and I honestly feel that he's a million times better than The Rock is, and it's just from a creativity standpoint. And even if someone else is writing his stuff, just like everyone goes, oh well, someone wrote their own stuff. I'm like, yeah, but this person still has to go out there and perform it. If you told me that the Foo Fighters didn't write any of their material, Dave Grohl still has to go out there and sing these songs. The drummer still has to go out there and you know what I mean. So it's like, you know what I mean. So Roman still has to go out there with this arrogance to him and still do this. And for me, it's just been some of the best I've seen in a long time. But
did you ever hear him on when he was on Up Up Down Down? They were playing FIFA, and it was funny because people talked about how he doesn't have a character, he doesn't have all this. Because that was back when it was just the next
big
John Cena, Roman Reigns, big dog.
Yeah.
Bow wow. Well, he was on there, and man, he cracking wise, having fun, just it was like a completely different person. Again, they're actors, so
yeah,
kind of expect that.
Or I saw this clip of him and Seth Rollins, and they were in the car, and they were complimenting each other, but they were complimenting each other angrily. And he was just like, he goes, "You are such a nice human being." And I was like, he's like, "I don't even know how to compliment you right now," and it was so great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's fun. That's fun stuff.
So
I wanted to tie back to one thing real quick.
Go right ahead.
Because we were talking about seeing prayer work and seeing things like that. And this one's a little bit harder for me to talk about in one sense. So I want to give people like, hey, I've seen it work, but I've also seen negative things happen, even though he prayed about stuff. And that was with my dad. He went through, he went through a lot through his life and a lot of different things that happened with him. But later in life, he had cancer.
Ooh.
And so I went and I prayed over him and I said, we don't need to worry about this anymore. You'll be taken care of. I have complete faith that you'll be fine. And he went through his treatments and he got down and they're like, you're cancer free. And I was like, thank you, Lord, for that. I'm glad that he's taken care of. And then it came back and I prayed about it again. And it went away again. And then the third time it came back and it didn't go away. And I still prayed about it. Sorry, I'm so sorry for me not to cry when talking about him. It was tough though because to me it's like, why did that happen? I wasn't praying. Well, I was selfishly praying like I want my dad here, but I didn't want him to have to go through that.
Yeah.
But
do you need me to pause it?
Also did not change. He did not change the things.
Yeah. That
caused it. He kept doing those things anyway. If you think of like he was a heavy smoker, he did a lot of different things like that, and it just, and I know just because you quit smoking doesn't mean that that's going to stop all that stuff from happening, or that couldn't have already been there. But the things that he had done in his past still affected it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes even if we do stuff, it doesn't always work out either. I have to let people know that. It's not like every time I break, everything works out fine, or it always goes the way I want. But I thought about it after that happened, because when my daughter was born in January, and the night before she was born, my parents' house burned down.
Oh, man.
And so my dad, who was still going through his cancer treatments and stuff like that, they had to figure out how to get a new house and stuff and how to do everything. And up until the day he died, well, up until about the week before he died, he worked on that house, trying to rebuild it, do everything he could, helping do all that stuff. And then he passed, and my mom had to finish the house on her own, hiring in people and doing stuff. And in a way, it turned out to be a blessing that he passed away when he did, before the house was finished, because I don't think my mom would have stayed where she is and as close to me as she is if that had happened. So, although a negative thing came out of it, it did end up a positive that my mom is still close by.
Yeah.
Because before, another story of things, my brother, when I was, how old was I? I was 12 when he got hurt. And he was, for 12 years, he was like partially paralyzed and went through a lot of stuff before he finally passed. And my mom stayed home to take care of him, did everything that she could to take care of him and make sure that he had the best possible care that he could have. And, I helped with it, my dad, my brothers, everybody, we all did what we could to help out. But after he passed away, it was hard for my mom to go back in the room that he was in. Like, she just couldn't go in there. And I still had trouble. I would go back there and still start a conversation with him, even though he's not there. And so that stuff was tough. But again, that's a tough thing. And I remember praying about that. And that's one thing that still, when I think about it, I get frustrated. I ask God, it's like, why did he, at least not be able to, talk to my mom before he went? Because, he wasn't even able to speak. I was like, why couldn't he have just said, Mom, I love you, or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's tough for me when I think about that. But then again, if it wasn't for him getting hurt, I wouldn't have met my wife.
Wow.
Because my wife's mom worked home health care taking care of my brother. And her mom and my mom were talking. And that is how I got my wife's information and was able to get in contact with her. And I know that for a fact that she was brought to me from prayer, because I spent 6 months praying that God would bring somebody who would love me into my life. And then my wife shows up. And she puts up with me and loves everything about me, so I don't that has to be somebody else involved. You want to say it's God, you want to say it's Jesus, you want to say it's the flying spaghetti monster in the sky doing it. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, somebody else was helping me out, and then for me, I believe it was God helping me out. But for you, Odin didn't help me out. He could have been, he's got all the realms to take care of. He's good. He's got under control. But I'm still thankful that happened, because there's so much stories I could go on to that I'd probably have to do a second podcast just to talk about how me and my wife met, how things went, how we got to what was going on, just all the things that have happened in our life, because there's so much stuff. And to me, it seems trivial, but to somebody else, maybe, telling about these stories or talking about this might actually help somebody out, or make them feel better, or make them think differently. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what else to say, man. I'm just rambling now.
But you know what? I have a quick rapid fire game. But before I get into that, I want to say that you did hit on something that I truly believe in. It's just the randomness of how something negative can happen and how it can lead you to these other things. My wife, she was supposed to go to a different club. Her car broke down on a ridiculous highway. So on a highway in Massachusetts, that's just awful. So she ends up calling one of my friend of mine, calling his girlfriend, and they went to a club that was next to where I worked at. That I ended up that I knew all the people at, and I was gonna go home, and he was like, "You owe me a wingman," because the particular woman that I was seeing at the time set him on a blind date, and this woman was just aggressive, bad. So, but this the randomness that had to happen, and then like my wife's car breaking down on her birthday, and that's how I ended up meeting her. We broke up, and you know how they always say, never date your ex. My wife was my ex. You know what I mean? We broke up, we got back together, we broke up, we got back together. Like, she saw me at rock bottom and then helped carry me back up to the sunset. So these negative things happen for a reason. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know if me and my wife's relationship would be as strong if we didn't go through the negative things that we went through. So I'm like you said, if you believe in God, you believe in Odin, you believe in Zeus, you believe in, except Xenu. If you believe in Xenu, please go. But like,
I was going to say, just be careful believing in Zeus, because he might try to sleep with your wife.
As a tiger.
Yeah. I mean, you can't compete with that, I'm sorry.
No.
I was like, at that point, I might find Zeus, whatever. I don't know if you saw that. Have you seen that meme? It's got Zeus' picture. It's like, I'm going to stick my penis in. And they're like, don't do it, Zeus. It's like, I'm going to do it. It's like, that's all of Greek mythology right there.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Zeus, and this is the tiger touch. All right, so
this Greek jackass, Greek god jackass.
Oh my! I would pay.
Kratos doesn't show up at the end, because I would be terrified to watch that part.
Zeus, how dare you turn into a tiger before me?
You know, I feel like that would be the end of it. Like it would be Ares, and he go, "Hi, I'm Ares, and this is the watch me have my servant kill his family trick."
Oh man.
So before we go, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rapid fire questions for you, and by rapid fire, I mean take your time. I take your time in answering them.
Hang on a second. Wait, 1 second, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I bumped my headphones. They're like right beside my knee, and I turned and it twisted it, and I went mono for a second. I was like, I can't do mono.
So, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I know you don't watch wrestling anymore, but worst entrance music of all time.
Worst entrance music of all time is also probably the best entrance music, and that is Rob Conway's "Just Look at Me." You ever heard that?
Yes, I
Look
did.
at me, just look at me. Ain't I as silent to see?
You get
Wait a minute, that's best. Sorry, I went best. Actually the worst. 100% the worst song, but I will sing it nonstop because it is just so catchy and stupid, is the song that they used for, I think it was it Strike Force? Is that their name? Or it was like Tito Santana and somebody else, I thought it was. And their song was, they switched it, was Girls in Cars. And if you come out to Girls in Cars and you hear that song, you're like, how could they let somebody wrestle to that theme? Yeah, it's pretty bad. And to tie that song into something else, that was the song they used for Ted DiBiase in the NES WrestleMania game. It didn't play Money, Money, Money. It played Girls in Cars.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out what the WWF Girls and Cars.
Yeah, Girls in Cars, and like,
Yeah, it's Strike Force, Strike Force and Renee Dupree. Girls in Cars.
Robbie Dupree's who it is.
Oh, what is this? All right. Well, apparently I have of course I have a YouTube video to go, which is funny because I had the next question was, oh gosh.
Trust me, man. You got to listen to it because it's just so awful. You're like, how could you expect anybody to get over with this theme?
What is this? This looks like a bad 8. You know what? No. I need to.
That is the official music video they did for it, but Strike Force came out to that song, and like, I'm like, yeah, there's understandably why you guys didn't win the titles. It's like,
Strike Force and Robbie Dupree. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah. Girls in Cars. And it is, though. It is Ted DiBiase, WrestleMania on the NES. That's the song they used for his theme instead at NES Tune Sound. It's crazy. It should have been money, money, money. But nope. Nope. God.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Look at that, man. I just knocked you off their feet. Like, wait a minute, this guy just brought out some deep cuts.
Yeah, so the next question was Benchester music, so I guess we go there. Best WWF finisher.
finisher, huh? I have always been a fan of the like clothesline from Hell style, the lariat.
Oh,
like
yeah.
the running through type thing. And that I actually thought that if I ever was going to go into pro wrestling, that would be probably the finisher I would choose. Except I would do snake eyes with it. You know, the Undertaker does that move. He runs them into the corner and throws them on the rope. He hits the ropes back
Oh,
and hits them with the
yeah.
face. I would rather see somebody do that with just like the clothesline from Hell because it's a perfect setup.
I know JBL does that. Used to do that every so often, but even Snake Eyes, it someone
He would
would just
Irish whip them into the corner, and then they would bounce out, and he'd come off and just take their head off. And
Yeah.
and because like you can do it to anybody. You can do it to Mysterio. You can do it to Show. You can
yeah.
do it to Khali, but you might break the stilts that are his legs. So. Somebody said they're like he's actually like two midgets on stilts or something like that. Two short people on stilts dressed up in a suit of a big man trying to pretend to be.
Oh yeah, he's 5 8-year-old kids. So
They actually saw somebody do that, man, where like there's a video of some kids actually on each other's shoulders with a giant trench coat walking down the street just giggling.
that is fantastic. I need to see that. So, do you have a favorite clothesline from Hell? Because I have one. It's the Hurricane tried to clothesline JBL and hurt himself, and JBL turned around and looked at him and took his whole. You could see his soul. You remember? All right. You know in Doctor Strange when the Ancient One hit Doctor Strange in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you could see his soul leave his body when he hit him. And Paul Heyman was on commentary going, "Time out, time out."
My favorite one was when they did it to I can't remember. It was just on a random episode of SmackDown, and I don't even remember who the luchador was he hit, but he was just the way he pantomimed before he did it. He was like. Because he picks the luchador up off the ground by his head, and it wasn't Ray, so somebody else. He picks him up, and JBL's got his hand on his chest, like, "This guy's tough, man. I don't know if I can do this." And he just stepped back to the rope and hit that guy, and just the guy did the inside out bump to take it correctly to really sell it. And the best part was Taz just laughing about what happened, and Michael Cole was like, "You're an idiot."
Yeah.
I was like, "This is pro wrestling defined right there for me."
Oh god, there was another good one. It was JBL's last clothesline from Hell. I forget who the guy was who kept coming out and challenging like old legends.
Was it the Ascension? Because I remember the Ascension just got destroyed when they came out.
It
They didn't
might
have
have
a
been
chance. They were like, "Hey, guess what, guys? You're the new Legion of Doom. Well, all the WWE old guys are gonna kill you now and ruin your push,
Yeah.
or make you look bad."
I think it might have been the Ascension. They came over and talked to DX, and JBL was in the ring, and he kind of like loosened his shoulder up, and he took him right out of his shoes.
Oh, that's such a beautiful move when done correctly.
It really is.
So little to do so much. That's what's great about it.
Yeah. So favorite WrestleMania match?
Oh man, had to bring up wrestling and Mania.
Oh, don't worry. We're getting to the good stuff. The next two questions are the good stuff.
Well, when I can quantify them differently depending on times too, but like I always enjoyed Daniel Bryan's win. That was just fun.
Yeah.
Because that actually brought me back whenever he got had both titles and he beat Triple H and Batista. It wasn't like the greatest match ever. It wasn't anything we hadn't seen before, but I loved it. It was just fun. I'd say that's probably my favorite. I liked close up there. Kofi winning was nice too. It was just good to see the happiness it brought to people.
Yeah, that's the thing that's supposed to be like the story of like WrestleMania. Even if the heel wins, it's just the story of what's going on. Like I can't wait to see what they do with Roman this year, the way he's been pushed. So, I say the best for last. Your favorite anime character?
Favorite anime character? Huh. Man, that's a toss up right now. It's still between Mr. Satan and All Might. I love both of them. It's just the funniest thing, man. Mr. Satan from Dragon Ball. I think he still wins #1 for favorite anime character just because of the ridiculousness.
Oh yeah.
And how much I hated that character as a team when I was watching. I was like, why did they spend so much time on this idiot? I want to see fighting in action. And now I watch this as an adult. I was like, this guy's great. I was like, his name fits him perfectly. You know, he is a big liar. That's what Satan's known for, is just being king liar, and that's all he does.
And I love the fact, and because again, here comes the name again. Lavelle put me on to like Dragon Ball, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And then I saw him fight. I'm like, "Wait! He can actually fight?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Think about it though. You take a black belt, and you're like, "Hey, go fight Goku. Go up there, and these people who can destroy mountains with a beam."
Yeah.
A sneeze can destroy stuff, and I gotta get out there and handle it, Mr. Karate Man.
And see what's gonna happen then.
That is one thing. I love Dragon Ball, but it's hard to recommend it to people because of all of the stuff because of the time it was wrote, and the period that it came out in, and the different culture. Like, there's a lot of offensive stuff in there. Like, me and my daughter were watching original Dragon Ball again, and I was like, man, I have to explain what Roshi's over there doing. Doing some horrible stuff, and why he's interested. So, like, because, at the time she was like 3 or 4, so I was like, he just really likes butts. And I didn't go any further than that, and she just accepted it. She's like, that's weird. And I was like, yeah, he's a weird old man. And we just kind of rolled with that. I didn't really want to have to try to explain that to a 3 or 4-year-old child, but like, this guy's really a creep and a lecher, and have to explain that. So I just give her, I found that in parenting. Like, if I just talk to my child, like, she's still kind of like an adult, but not there yet.
Yeah.
But if I still give her the answer, because like one time she asked me where kids came from, I said, parents, you get cells from the mom and cells from the dad. They combine, and that's what happens. And and she's like, cool, because she's always loved science. So I just said, hey, 2 cells combined, that's what you get. She didn't need to know anymore. She's like, okay. It worked out perfectly for me, and she's like, yeah, that makes sense.
That may be one of the best ways I've ever heard that explained to a child, and I'm going to make sure that's actually going to be a clip from the show that I'm going to use. And lastly, what is a good starting point for a non-anime fan?
Well, if you're going to go with both anime and manga, I'd have to say Full Metal Alchemist. But if you're doing anime side, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, there's actually 2 of them. Brotherhood follows the manga pretty much 1 for 1, whereas original Full Metal Alchemist does not. And see, because you asked me about this type of thing before, like what I might recommend.
Yeah.
And I actually had to spend a lot of time thinking about that because, one, a lot of anime and manga and stuff has some sketchy and offensive stuff in there, and a lot of things that I'm like, you need to go in and understand that you're looking at a different culture's mindset, and that's tough because, like, man, they'll introduce characters that are like, what do they call them? Lolicon, I guess is what it's called. They're like a child, but they say, oh, this character's like 150, but I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna fly in court, chief. You're still gonna be in jail. So Full Metal Alchemist is the one I could think of, though, that didn't have too much stuff. It still gets dark. It's about 2 brothers and dealing with the ramifications of their choice with using alchemy, and then how they live through that, and then how the world works. And for the most part, I didn't find it super offensive with a lot of the stuff they did, but it's been a while since I watched it. But my wife also watched it, and she would say, yeah, I would recommend that one. And she's not a big anime fan like I am.
Oh.
So
It's funny because that's how I judge a lot of comic book stuff, is if my wife will watch something, and like Loki, she loved Loki, and she's not a comic book fan. So when we watch certain things and she enjoys it from a non-comic book perspective, I can look at it differently. Except Lock and Key, I know I need to watch it, but I haven't got past episode 7 of season 1 because that book was so good and that TV show just bastardized it, and I'm still upset about it.
You wanna be mad with me for a minute? I have the only Marvel series, TV series that I've finished was WandaVision. I haven't watched any of the other ones or anything. I get too bored when watching TV. I'm like, I like reading comics and manga because if like it gets kind of boring, I can speed up and I can get through it.
Yeah.
And get over the parts, like if there's something that really bothers me that's going on or something like that, I can just kind of go ahead. Whereas sometimes with like film and stuff, you fast forward, but it's like, okay, I don't know when I need to stop. Kind of the page is just a little bit I don't know. It's a little bit easier on me in that way.
I
But
I absolutely dig it. To be honest with you, it's sometimes watching some of the shows is tedious. Like there were parts of Falcon and the Winter Soldier that I absolutely loved, and there were parts of it that just bored me to tears. And there were parts of it that made me like feel emotions, and like I teared up at the on during parts of the last episode, and during parts of the season. And but then sometimes I'm like, who wrote this crap? You know what I mean? So it's kind of a gift and a curse, and I find it weird that like so with TV. I'm gonna sound like such a punk when I say this, but you'll understand this. TV isn't fun when I'm watching it by myself. But if me and my wife are watching something, it is infinitely more fun. We watched Dope Sick, and she's in the medical field, so like she's telling me all this stuff like, oh yeah, this definitely happened and that happened, and then we found out some other stuff, and we're just having this long conversation about the pill epidemic and opioids, and she found out some new stuff, and then that turned into another conversation, and I think that's one of the beauties of like watching TV with people when you can just because shout out to my co-host and one of my friends and one of my best friends, Hobby. Like him and his wife will come over, or me and my wife will go over there, and I swear to you, we will not watch something. We will not watch something. Like it'll cut on, and we're like, "What's going on right now?"
Yeah, that's oh man. Yeah, that was kind of like my daughter she got into Harry Potter, and they watched some of the movies. She's like, "Have you watched the Harry Potter movies, Dad?" And I was like, "I watched the first one and the last one, and none of it in between." And I still understood what was going on. So it wasn't that hard to follow.
God, don't get me started.
She looked at me all confused.
This has been the Old Man Wade Show. I want to thank Sensationo for coming on the show. He will definitely come back on if he wants to. We will tell more stories. We will converse more about everything's going on. I'd like to hear more about just life, man, like the gift and the curse of things. Is there anything you want to leave people with?
yeah, watch My Hero Academia. Read it, watch it, and then read it, because you can't just, if you're watching it, you're going to be so like, I gotta know what's going on, so then read it. Man, that's what I tell everybody. I tell you that all the time. I'm like, you need to do this. You got to get into it.
You
I got to hook you a line of sinker.
Yeah, like you and my therapist have been like, he's like, you started. I'm like, I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna get it. All right, thanks everyone. As always, peace and love. Be excellent to each other.
Damn it, Wade!